The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the empty space between star systems. It was built long ago as a place where different alien races could meet safely. Today, the station buzzed with tension as ships from 12 different worlds docked at its ports. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked through the long corridors of the station. Her simple black suit looked plain compared to the colorful robes and armor worn by the alien delegates she passed. Some had multiple arms, others had scales instead of skin, and a few glowed with their own inner light. They all stared at her as she walked by. She was the only human on the entire station. The meeting room was enormous with a ceiling that stretched high above like a cathedral. 12 different seats surrounded a central platform, each one designed for a different type of alien body. Sarah stood alone on the platform, looking up at the representatives who would decide humanity's fate. The first to speak was General Krath of the Vorthak Empire. He was 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and 4 muscular arms. When he spoke, his voice rumbled like thunder. "Human," he said, making the word sound like an insult. "Your species has grown too bold. In just 200 years, you have claimed over 200 star systems. You take worlds without asking permission. You build cities where others might want to live." Sarah said nothing. She had been told to listen first. Next came Sage Miloth from the Zephyrian Collective. Her people looked like tall, thin humans, but with large heads and silver eyes that seemed to glow. The Zephyrians could read minds, and Sarah felt a gentle pressure against her thoughts as Sage Miloth tried to probe her mind. Sarah had trained for this. She thought only about the weather on Earth. "We have watched your species with growing concern," Sage Miloth said, her voice echoing strangely as if she spoke directly into everyone's minds. "You are young and reckless. You do not understand the delicate balance that has kept peace in this galaxy for 50,000 years." Other voices joined in. The crystal-like beings called Quartzians chimed their complaints in musical tones. The gas-breathing Netherans spoke through translation devices that made their words sound mechanical. Each species had the same message. Humanity was moving too fast, taking too much, and threatening everyone else. Finally, General Krath stood again. The room fell silent. "The Galactic Hegemony Council has made a decision," he announced. "Humanity will surrender 80% of your colonies within 1 solar cycle. That is 1 Earth year by your counting. You will also accept hegemony oversight of all remaining human worlds. Hegemony ships will be stationed in your systems to make sure you follow our rules." Sarah felt the weight of their stares. 200 billion humans lived on the worlds these aliens wanted her to give up. Families, children, entire civilizations that had grown among the stars. "What if we refuse?" she asked quietly. General Krath's forearms crossed over his massive chest. "Then we will use corrective action. Our combined fleets number over 50,000 ships. Your entire navy has maybe 3,000 vessels. The choice should be obvious." The other delegates nodded or made their species equivalent gestures of agreement. They had done the math. 12 species against 1, 50,000 ships against 3,000. Advanced technology that had been perfected over millennia against human equipment that was barely 2 centuries old. Sage Miloth leaned forward in her seat. "We do not wish to hurt your people, Ambassador Chen. But your expansion threatens the stability we have worked so hard to maintain. Other young species have tried to grow too quickly. They learned to respect the established order, or they were taught to respect it." Sarah looked around the room one more time. She saw the confidence in their alien faces. They truly believed this was just a formality. They expected her to bow her head and accept their terms immediately. Instead, she straightened her shoulders and looked directly at General Krath. "I need 48 hours to consult with my government," she said. The general's laugh was like rocks grinding together. "Consult all you wish, human. The answer will be the same. Your species cannot stand against the combined might of the hegemony." "Perhaps," Sarah said calmly. "But my people deserve to hear the terms from their own leaders, not from me alone." The delegates looked at each other. Some seemed amused by what they saw as pointless delay. Others appeared annoyed that she was wasting their time. Sage Miloth spoke again. "Very well. 48 hours. But know this, Ambassador Chen. We have been generous with our terms. If you try to negotiate or ask for changes, the conditions will become much worse. This is not a discussion. This is notice of what will happen." Sarah nodded once. "I understand perfectly." She turned and walked toward the exit. As the doors closed behind her, she heard General Krath speaking to the other delegates. "Humans," he rumbled. "They still think they have choices. Back in her small quarters on the station, Sarah activated her secure communication device. The signal would take hours to reach Earth, but she knew someone would be waiting for it. The face that appeared on her screen belonged to Admiral Marcus Rivera, head of Earth's Strategic Defense Command. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much war. "Sarah," he said when the connection stabilized. "How bad is it?" "As bad as we expected," she replied. 80% of our colonies in total submission to hegemony oversight. 50,000 ships backing up the demand. Admiral Rivera was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, and Sarah saw something dangerous in that smile. 50,000 ships, he repeated. That's actually fewer than our intelligence suggested. They must be keeping some fleets in reserve. Sarah felt her heart beat faster. "Marcus, what aren't you telling me?" "Just stick to the plan, Sarah. Accept their terms gracefully in 48 hours. Tell them humanity knows when it's beaten." "But Marcus, and trust me," the Admiral said. "And Sarah? You might want to find an excuse to leave Nexus Prime soon after you give them our answer. Things are going to get interesting very quickly." The communication ended, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. Outside her window, she could see the alien ships docked at the station. Massive vessels bristling with weapons that could destroy entire cities. Soon all of them would turn toward human space. She thought about the colonies they wanted humanity to abandon. New Terra, where her sister lived with her children. Kepler Station, where humanity had built its first deep space observatory. Hope's End, the farming world that fed a dozen systems. The aliens were so confident. They had run the numbers and decided that resistance was impossible. 50,000 ships against 3,000. Ancient technology against new innovations. Established power against upstart newcomers. Sarah wondered if they had bothered to ask why humanity was so calm about impossible odds. She supposed they would find out soon enough. In 46 hours, she would stand before the Hegemony Council again and officially surrender on behalf of all humanity. She would bow her head and accept their terms, and then the aliens would learn what it really meant to threaten the human species. But for now, she had a role to play. She had to look defeated, worried, and completely outmatched. It wasn't difficult. After all, on paper, humanity didn't stand a chance. The message from Ambassador Chen reached Earth 43 minutes after she sent it. By the time it arrived, Admiral Marcus Rivera was already in the deepest levels of the Pentagon, in a room that officially did not exist. The chamber was filled with screens showing star maps, ship positions, and data streams from across human space. 15 people sat around a metal table, each one representing a different aspect of humanity's hidden preparations. They were the Prometheus Committee, named after the ancient human who stole fire from the gods. 48 hours, Admiral Rivera announced to the room. The hegemony wants an answer, and then they'll move their fleets to enforce their demands. Dr. Keiko Tanaka, Earth's chief strategic planner, pulled up a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked known hegemony positions. Blue dots showed official human colonies. What made the display interesting were the green dots, thousands of them scattered throughout empty space. Status report on the shadow assets, Admiral Rivera said. Commander Elena Vasquez spoke first. She was responsible for the deep sleep protocol. All 73 sleeper ships have been activated. They've been drifting in dark space for the past 30 years, looking like dead hulks. The crews came out of hibernation 6 hours ago. Each ship carries enough firepower to take out a hegemony cruiser. Next was Director James Wong, who oversaw the Phantom Colony project. "Sir, we have confirmation from all hidden settlements. The hegemony thinks we have 200 systems, but the real number is 412. Our decoy colonies have been broadcasting fake population data and energy signatures for decades. The real colonies have been operating under communication silence." Admiral Rivera nodded. The hidden colonies had been humanity's greatest secret. While aliens watched human expansion with growing alarm, they had only seen half of it. Every time humans claimed a new system openly, they secretly claimed 2 others in dark regions of space that no one ever visited. Dr. Sarah Kim, Director of Advanced Weapons Research, activated her own display. The terraforming equipment on our frontier worlds has finished its conversion. What the aliens think are atmospheric processors are actually particle beam arrays. What they think are mining platforms are actually shield generators. We've been building fortresses while they thought we were just farming. The most important report came from Dr. Chen Wei, head of the Titan Forge project. His face was grim but satisfied. "The asteroid belt factories are ready," he said. "For 50 years we've been telling everyone we were mining metals and ice. We were actually building the largest weapons manufacturing system in human history. Every rock bigger than a football stadium has been hollowed out and converted into a shipyard or munitions plant." Admiral Rivera looked around the room. These people had spent their entire careers preparing for this day. While humanity made friends and traded with alien species, while they learned and grew and spread through the galaxy, they had never forgotten the first lesson of human history: be ready for war. "What about the new tech?" Admiral Rivera asked. Dr. Tanaka smiled for the first time since the meeting began. "The breakthrough came 6 months ago. We've been testing it in secret ever since. The aliens know about our standard faster-than-light drives, our plasma weapons, our energy shields. They don't know about quantum displacement technology." She activated a video showing a small human ship suddenly vanishing from one location and appearing in another, thousands of miles away in the blink of an eye. "Instant teleportation," she explained. "We can move ships, weapons, even entire space stations anywhere within a light-year radius. The power requirements are enormous, but we've solved that problem too." Another video showed a space station that seemed to exist in 2 places at once, flickering between dimensions. "Pocket dimension storage," Dr. Tanaka continued. "We can hide fleets, weapons, even entire colonies in spaces that exist outside normal reality. The aliens can't detect what they can't reach." Admiral Rivera felt a familiar mixture of pride and sadness. Humanity had achieved miracles of science and engineering. They had built wonders that would amaze any species in the galaxy. But they had done it all in secret, preparing for the day when their neighbors would try to destroy them. "Population count?" he asked. Director Wong answered. "Official numbers show 50 billion humans across 200 systems. Real numbers are 320 billion across 412 systems. We've been using holographic populations and AI-generated data streams to hide our true growth." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the numbers. The hegemony thought they were threatening 50 billion humans with 50,000 ships. They had no idea they were actually facing 300 billion humans who had been preparing for this war for over a century. "Sir," Commander Vasquez said quietly, "are we really going to let them think they won it first?" Admiral Rivera looked at the star map again. Each blue dot represented millions of human lives. Each green dot represented a secret that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Each red dot represented an alien species that thought humanity was weak. "The plan stays the same," he said. "Ambassador Chen will surrender in 47 hours. The hegemony will think they've won without firing a shot. They'll move their fleets to take control of our systems. And then?" Dr. Tanaka asked. "Then they'll learn why humans survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, plagues, and wars that should have destroyed us," Admiral Rivera said. "They'll learn that the most dangerous human is the one who looks beaten." Messages began flowing out from the secret chamber to hidden bases across human space. Sleeper agents activated equipment that had been disguised for decades. Factory ships that looked like cargo haulers revealed their true purpose. Research stations that appeared to study stars began charging weapons that could crack planets. On the frontier world of New Montana, farmer Jake Anderson received a message on his personal communicator. The message was simple: harvest time. Jake nodded and walked to his barn. Inside, where he kept his farming equipment, a hidden panel slid open. Beneath it was a control room that could coordinate the defense of an entire star system. In the asteroid belt around Wolf 359, maintenance worker Lisa Park got the same message. She smiled and activated controls that converted her mining platform into a weapons battery that could destroy ships from 3 million miles away. Across human space, the transformation began. Peaceful colonies became fortresses. Commercial ships revealed hidden armaments. Civilian populations moved to underground shelters that were actually command centers. But on the surface, everything looked normal. The aliens watching human space saw exactly what they expected to see: a young species getting ready to surrender to superior force. Dr. Tanaka stayed behind after the others left the meeting room. She found Admiral Rivera staring at the display showing hegemony fleet positions. "Marcus," she said quietly, "they're not evil. Most of these species are just scared. They see us growing so fast and they think we'll take over the galaxy." "I know," Admiral Rivera replied. But they made a choice. They decided to threaten human children instead of talking to us like equals. They decided that might makes right. So we're going to show them what real might looks like? Admiral Rivera turned off the displays one by one until only the image of Earth remained, floating alone in the darkness. We're going to show them that humanity chooses when to use its strength, he said. Today we choose to look weak. Tomorrow we choose to show them why that was a mistake. Dr. Tanaka nodded and left him alone with his thoughts. In less than 2 days, the galaxy would change forever. The only question was whether the aliens would be smart enough to learn from what happened next. Outside, Earth looked peaceful in the afternoon sun. Children played in parks while their parents worked in offices and factories. None of them knew that their entire civilization was about to reveal its true nature. But in the deep places, in the hidden chambers and secret bases, humanity was finally getting ready to stop pretending to be harmless. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the Hegemony Council exactly 48 hours after they had delivered their ultimatum. Her shoulders were slumped in defeat, and her voice was quiet when she spoke. "The United Earth government has considered your terms," she said, looking down at the floor. "We accept your demands. Humanity will withdraw from 80% of our colonies and submit to hegemony oversight." General Krath of the Vorthak Empire leaned back in his massive chair, all 4 arms crossed in satisfaction. "A wise choice, human. Your species shows intelligence when faced with overwhelming force." Sage Meloth of the Zephyrian Collective nodded approvingly. "This is the beginning of a new era of peace and stability. Your people will learn to appreciate the wisdom of the established order." What none of them noticed was the tiny smile that crossed Sarah's face for just a moment before she bowed her head. Again, 3 days later, the first hegemony fleet arrived at Proxima Centauri, humanity's closest neighbor to Earth. Admiral Thexvar commanded the force from his flagship, the massive dreadnought Cosmic Dominion. His fleet consisted of 200 ships, including 50 heavy cruisers that could destroy entire cities with a single volley. "Scan the system," Admiral Thexvar ordered his crew. The Vorthak admiral was confident this would be a simple operation. Humans would put up token resistance for the sake of honor, then surrender when they realized they were outmatched. The tactical officer, an insect-like chitinous named Click Whir, studied his displays. "Sir, I'm detecting standard human defensive platforms around the planet. 12 orbital weapons stations, 36 fighter squadrons, and what appears to be a small fleet of 40 ships." Admiral Thexvar laughed, a sound like boulders falling down a mountain. 40 ships against 200. They must be planning to surrender immediately. But as the hegemony fleet moved closer to Proxima Centauri, the human ships did something unexpected. Instead of forming a defensive line or trying to retreat, they spread out and began moving at high speed directly toward the alien vessels. "Sir," Clickwur said, confusion clear in his mechanical voice, "the human ships are accelerating toward us. They're not slowing down." "Are they trying to ram us?" Admiral Thexvar asked. "Don't they know our shields can stop anything they can throw at us?" The first human ship reached the hegemony line at nearly 10% of light speed. Instead of bouncing off the alien shields, it punched straight through the energy barrier of a hegemony cruiser and smashed into the hull. Both ships exploded in a massive fireball that lit up the darkness of space. "What just happened?" Admiral Thexvar demanded. Before anyone could answer, 3 more human ships slammed into hegemony vessels. Each impact destroyed both the human ship and its target in spectacular explosions that sent debris flying in all directions. "Sir, how are they getting through our shields?" Clickwur asked, his voice rising in panic. "And where are their crews?" Another officer added. "I'm not detecting any life signs on the human ships before impact." Admiral Thexvar was beginning to understand that something was very wrong. These weren't desperate suicide attacks by brave but doomed humans. These were perfectly planned strikes using ships that somehow had no crew members. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," he ordered. "Destroy the remaining human vessels before they can reach us." But the human ships were too fast and too small. They darted between the larger hegemony vessels like angry insects, impossible to track with the heavy weapons designed for ship-to-ship combat. Worse, every time the aliens tried to target one, it would suddenly change direction in ways that should have crushed any crew from the acceleration forces. Then the orbital defense platforms around Proxima Centauri opened fire, but instead of the plasma beams and missile salvos the aliens expected, The platforms launched what looked like simple metal rods. Kinetic projectiles? Admiral Thexvar scoffed. Do they think chunks of metal can hurt our armor? The first rod hit a hegemony destroyer at 90% of light speed. The ship simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the incredible energy of the impact. The second rod punched through 3 ships in a line, leaving glowing holes where their hulls used to be. Impossible, Clickwhir whispered. Those projectiles are moving faster than our sensors can track. How are they accelerating metal to relativistic speeds? More human ships appeared from behind asteroids and moons. Ships that had been hiding in locations the aliens hadn't bothered to scan. These vessels opened fire with weapons that seemed to bend space itself, creating gravity wells that crushed hegemony ships like empty cans. In just 10 minutes, Admiral Thexvar had lost over 50 ships to an enemy he still couldn't fully understand. His fleet was in chaos, with vessels trying to retreat, while others attempted to return fire at targets that moved like they weren't bound by the normal laws of physics. Sir, Clickwhir called out, the Cosmic Dominion is being targeted by multiple human vessels. They're converging on our position. Admiral Thexvar looked at his tactical display and saw 6 human ships racing toward his dreadnought. Each one was tiny compared to his massive vessel, but after what he had just witnessed, size no longer seemed to matter. All weapons, fire at will, he commanded. Destroy them before they reach us. The Cosmic Dominion's massive guns opened fire, sending streams of plasma and antimatter warheads toward the approaching human ships. The weapons struck their targets dead on, and for a moment Admiral Thexvar thought the threat was over. Then the explosions faded, and all 6 human ships were still there, completely undamaged. Sir, they're protected by some kind of energy field we've never seen before, Clickwhir reported. Our weapons are having no effect. The human ships reached the Cosmic Dominion and began circling it at impossible speeds. As they moved, reality itself seemed to shimmer around the massive dreadnought. Admiral Thexvar felt a strange sensation, like the universe was stretching around him. The stars outside began to look different, their light shifting to colors that didn't exist. Sir, Clickwhir said, his voice filled with terror. We're moving, but not through normal space. Something is pulling us out of this dimension. The last thing Admiral Thexvar saw before everything went white was the human fleet, still orbiting exactly where his ship used to be. Then the Cosmic Dominion was somewhere else entirely, floating in a space filled with swirling colors and impossible geometry. A new voice came through the communication system, calm and professional. Admiral Thexvar, this is Admiral Marcus Rivera of the United Earth Defense Force. Your ship and crew are unharmed, but you are now in a pocket dimension under our control. You will remain here as our guests until your government decides to end hostilities. Admiral Thexvar looked around at his crew, all of them staring in shock at the alien space outside their viewports. In 30 years of military service, he had never heard of technology that could move entire ships between dimensions. How? He asked the empty air. Admiral Rivera's voice came back, and there was something almost sad in it. Admiral, your people have had faster-than-light travel for 50,000 years and never improved it. We've had it for 200 years, and we've already learned to fold space itself. The question isn't how we did this. The question is why your people stopped trying to grow. The communication ended, leaving Admiral Thexvar alone with his thoughts and his crew. Outside, the strange dimension swirled with energies that no hegemony scientist had ever imagined. Back in normal space, the remaining hegemony fleet was in full retreat. They had lost 60 ships, including their flagship, to an enemy that fought like they came from a completely different universe. The humans hadn't just won the battle, they had made it look easy. Admiral Rivera stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the alien vessels flee toward the edge of the system. Around him, his officers were already preparing for the next phase of the operation. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the hegemony fleet is broadcasting a general retreat order to all their forces. It looks like they're regrouping to plan a larger attack. Admiral Rivera nodded. Let them run. Let them think about what they just saw, and let them tell their friends that humanity is not what they expected. He looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, alien leaders were trying to understand how their superior technology had been so easily defeated by a species they considered primitive. Soon, they would learn that the battle at Proxima Centauri wasn't humanity showing its strength. It was humanity conducting a field test. The emergency session of the Hegemony Council convened just 12 hours after the disaster at Proxima Centauri. General Krath paced back and forth in front of the Great Assembly, his forearms gesturing wildly as he spoke. 60 ships, he roared. 60 ships destroyed or captured by a force 1/10 our size. How is this possible? Sage Miloth sat quietly in her crystalline chair, her silver eyes closed in concentration. She had been trying to probe the minds of the human prisoners from the captured dreadnought, but every time she attempted to read their thoughts, she encountered walls of mental discipline that she had never seen before. The humans have been hiding their true capabilities, she said finally, but the extent of their deception is still unclear to me. Admiral Zefkol of the Aquatic Deluge spoke through his translation device, his words coming out as mechanical bubbles. We should strike immediately with our full force. 10,000 ships against whatever tricks they might have. Numbers will tell in the end, the other delegates murmured agreement. The hegemony had survived for millennia by applying overwhelming force to any threat. Even if humanity had some new technology, they couldn't possibly stand against the combined might of 12 civilizations. That was when every communication screen in the chamber suddenly activated. The face of Dr. Keiko Tanaka appeared on each display, her expression calm and professional. Distinguished members of the Hegemony Council, she said. I am Dr. Keiko Tanaka, Strategic Director of the United Earth Government. I believe it's time for us to have an honest conversation. General Krath moved toward the communication controls, but Dr. Tanaka continued speaking. Please don't try to cut the transmission. This message is being broadcast simultaneously to every hegemony world, every military base, and every ship in your fleets. Your people deserve to hear the truth about what they're facing. The display changed to show a map of the galaxy. Blue dots marked known human colonies, exactly as the Hegemony Intelligence Services had mapped them. Then new dots began to appear. Green dots, scattered throughout regions of space that the aliens had thought were empty. For the past century, humanity has been conducting what we call the shadow expansion, Dr. Tanaka explained. While you watched us openly colonize 200 systems, we secretly settled 412 additional worlds. Our true population is not 50 billion as you believe, but 320 billion. Gasps and shocked murmurs filled the council chamber. Admiral Zefkol's tentacles writhed in distress as he processed the numbers. But this is just the beginning, Dr. Tanaka continued. You see, we've also been somewhat dishonest about our technological capabilities. The display changed again, showing what appeared to be a normal star system. Then the view zoomed in on the star itself, revealing a massive structure surrounding it like a cage made of metal and energy. This is the Helios Project, Dr. Tanaka said. What you're looking at is a partial Dyson swarm around the star we call Wolf 1061. We completed it 6 months ago. It collects more energy in one day than your entire civilization uses in a year. The council members stared in stunned silence. Dyson swarms were theoretical constructs that most species considered impossible to build. The engineering challenges were simply too great, the resource requirements too vast. We have similar projects under construction around 12 other stars, Dr. Tanaka continued. Each one gives us access to stellar-level power generation. This is how we're able to operate technologies that your scientists consider impossible. The display showed the battle at Proxima Centauri from a human perspective. Ships teleporting instantly across space, weapons that bent gravity itself, defensive fields that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Your people have had faster-than-light travel for 50,000 years, Dr. Tanaka said. In that time, you've made minor improvements to weapons and shields, but your basic technology hasn't changed. You've become comfortable with your superiority over younger species. The view changed to show human laboratories and research facilities, each one filled with scientists working on projects that defied conventional understanding of physics. Humanity developed faster-than-light travel in 50 years after first leaving our home world. In the 200 years since then, we've never stopped innovating. We've never stopped pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Every challenge we face becomes an opportunity to grow stronger. General Krath found his voice at last. This is impossible. Our intelligence services monitor all species for technological advancement. How could you hide developments this massive? Dr. Tanaka smiled, and there was something almost sad in her expression. General, your intelligence services see exactly what we want them to see. Every human world you've ever visited is a carefully constructed facade. Every technology demonstration we've given you has been deliberately limited to what you expect us to achieve. The display showed split-screen images. On one side was New Terra as hegemony observers saw it, a simple farming world with basic infrastructure. On the other side was New Terra as it really was, a fortress world with weapons, platforms that could crack moons and manufacturing, centers that produced advanced technology. We've been preparing for this day since we first encountered the Hegemony Council 60 years ago, Dr. Tanaka continued. We studied your history, your methods, your response to other young species who grew too quickly. We knew that eventually you would decide we were a threat. Sage Meloth leaned forward in her chair. Why hide your strength? If you possess such capabilities, why not simply demand respect from the beginning? Because we wanted to understand you first, Dr. Tanaka replied. We wanted to learn whether the hegemony could accept a truly equal partner, or whether you would only respond to superior force. Today you gave us our answer. The display changed one final time, showing space around the Earth's solar system. At first it looked empty except for the normal traffic of human ships. Then something incredible happened. The view shifted, revealing structures that had been hidden in pocket dimensions and folded space. Massive shipyards orbited Jupiter, building vessels the size of moons. Factory complexes stretched across the asteroid belt, each one larger than most hegemony space stations. Around the outer planets, defensive arrays emerged from dimensional storage, weapons platforms that could destroy fleets with a single coordinated salvo. This is just one system, Dr. Tanaka said quietly. Every human world has similar hidden infrastructure. We've been building in secret for over a century, always preparing for the day when we would need to defend ourselves. The communication screens showed Admiral Rivera standing on the bridge of a human command ship. Behind him, through the viewports, the Hegemony Council members could see the captured dreadnought Cosmic Dominion, floating in its strange prison dimension. Members of the Hegemony, Admiral Rivera said. Your admiral and his crew are safe and comfortable. They're our honored guests, not prisoners. They'll be returned to you unharmed when you're ready to discuss a peaceful resolution to this situation. General Krath's 4 hands clenched into fists. You think this changes anything? We still have 10,000 ships. We can still crush your 300 worlds. Admiral Rivera's expression didn't change. General, I need to correct another misconception. You don't have 10,000 ships available for this conflict. New images appeared on the screens showing hegemony fleets throughout the galaxy. Ships that should have been moving toward human space were instead dealing with mysterious technical failures. Weapon systems were shutting down randomly. Navigation computers were displaying errors. Communications were being interrupted by strange interference. For the past 3 days, every piece of technology sold to hegemony worlds by human companies has been quietly sabotaging your military systems, Admiral Rivera explained. Nothing permanent, nothing that will hurt your crews. But your fleets are currently in no condition to fight anyone. The revelation hit the Council like a physical blow. For decades, human technology companies had been selling improved computers, communication systems, and navigation equipment to hegemony worlds. Everyone had thought it was simply good business. How long? Sage Meloth asked quietly. How long what? Dr. Tanaka replied. How long have you been planning this? How long have you been infiltrating our systems and building your hidden empire? Dr. Tanaka was quiet for a moment before answering. Since the day we learned that the galaxy was not empty. Since the day we realized we would need to prove ourselves worthy of respect, rather than simply hoping for it. The communication screens went dark, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Outside, the first reports were already coming in from hegemony military bases across the galaxy. Ship after ship was reporting system failures that made them incapable of combat operations. General Krath slumped into his chair, all 4 arms hanging limply at his sides. In the space of 1 day, everything the hegemony thought they knew about humanity had been revealed as carefully constructed lies. What do we do now? Admiral Zefkol asked. Sage Meloth closed her silver eyes and tried to project her consciousness across space, searching for human minds she could probe for weaknesses or plans. Instead, she found something that chilled her to the core. Every human mind she touched was calm, patient, and completely confident. They weren't afraid of the hegemony's resp. Admiral Vorthak of the combined hegemony fleet stood on the bridge of his command ship, staring at the tactical display that showed the impossible. 10,000 ships from 12 different species formed the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. All of them were approaching the Sol system, humanity's home. But as they drew closer, something was wrong with the star itself. "Sir," his sensor operator reported, "the human sun is decreasing in brightness. The light output has dropped by 15% in the last hour." Admiral Vorthak was from the crystalline Quartzian species, his body made of living mineral that rang like a bell when he spoke. "Technical malfunction in their equipment?" "No, sir. This appears to be controlled. The star is being deliberately dimmed." Around the bridge, officers from different species exchanged worried glances. Stars didn't just dim on command. The energy requirements to affect stellar output were beyond anything the hegemony considered possible. "How many human ships are defending the system?" Admiral Vorthak asked. The tactical officer, a multi-armed chitinous named Sharpclick, studied his screens for several minutes before answering. "Sir, I'm not detecting any human vessels at all. No defensive platforms, no orbital stations. The system appears to be completely undefended." This should have been welcome news, but somehow it made Admiral Vorthak even more nervous. After what had happened at Proxima Centauri, he didn't believe humanity would leave their home world unprotected. "Sir," the communication officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet Earth." The main screen activated, showing the face of Dr. Keiko Tanaka. She was sitting in what appeared to be a simple office with bookshelves and a window showing blue sky behind her. She looked completely calm, as if she was about to discuss the weather rather than face the largest invasion fleet in galactic history. "Admiral Vorthak," she said with a slight bow of her head. "Welcome to the Sol system. I hope your journey was comfortable." Admiral Vorthak's crystalline features shifted in confusion. "Dr. Tanaka, your system appears to be undefended. Are you surrendering?" Dr. Tanaka smiled, and there was something in that smile that made every alien on every ship feel suddenly cold. "Oh, we're not surrendering, Admiral. We're demonstrating." The star behind her began to dim even further. What had been a normal yellow star was becoming noticeably darker, its light shifting toward orange. "What you're witnessing," Dr. Tanaka continued, "is the activation of Solar Station Alpha, our most advanced Dyson swarm. It's currently absorbing 25% of our sun's total energy output. We could absorb more, but we thought you might like to see what happens when we release that stored energy all at once." Admiral Vorthak felt his mineral heart ring with fear. "You're threatening to destroy your own star?" "Not destroy," Dr. Tanaka corrected gently. "Control. We built Solar Station Alpha to show that humanity has moved beyond the need to fight over resources. When you can harness the power of stars themselves, territorial disputes become rather pointless." The star began to brighten again, but now its light was different. Instead of normal white light, it pulsed with colors that shouldn't exist in stellar radiation. Red, blue, green, the sun became a rainbow of impossible hues. "This is what we've learned to do with stellar engineering," Dr. Tanaka explained. "We can make stars burn hotter or cooler. We can change their color, their radiation output, even their gravitational effects. Your fleets are currently orbiting a star that we can modify at will." Admiral Vorthak looked at his tactical display, suddenly realizing that his 10,000 ships were trapped inside a solar system, controlled by beings who could manipulate the very sun above them. "Sir," Sharpclick whispered, "if they can control stellar output, they could create solar flares that would destroy every ship in the system." Dr. Tanaka seemed to hear him despite the impossible distance. "We could do that," she agreed, "but we won't. You see, Admiral, this isn't about destroying your fleets. This is about showing you what mercy looks like when it comes from a species that has transcended the need for it." The sun returned to its normal appearance, but everyone in the hegemony fleet now understood that its apparent normalcy was entirely at humanity's discretion. "Now," Dr. Tanaka continued, "I believe it's time for you to see what you're really facing." Space around the hegemony fleet began to shimmer. At first it looked like heat distortion, but then shapes began to emerge from what had appeared to be empty space. Ships. Thousands upon thousands of ships. Appearing as if they had been invisible, Admiral Vorthak's sensor displays went insane as they tried to catalog the newly visible vessels. Human ships of every size and design surrounded the hegemony fleet in perfect formations. Fighters no bigger than shuttles, cruisers the size of cities, massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything the aliens had ever built. How many? Admiral Vorthak asked in a voice barely above a whisper. Sharp-Click's voice was filled with disbelief as he read the numbers. Sir, I count over 400,000 vessels. They've been here the entire time, hidden in some kind of dimensional cloak. Dr. Tanaka nodded approvingly. 412,307 ships, to be precise. Each one crewed by volunteers who believe that today marks the beginning of a new era in galactic relations. The human fleet had formed a perfect sphere around the hegemony forces, with each alien ship surrounded by dozens of human vessels. But there was no sense of aggression in their formation. They simply waited, like guards protecting honored guests rather than predators surrounding prey. Admiral, Dr. Tanaka said, your ships and crews are in no danger, but I wanted you to understand the choice that your governments are making. You came here with 10,000 ships believing that overwhelming force would let you dictate terms to humanity. She paused, looking directly into the camera with eyes that seemed far older than her face. But we have 400,000 ships, each one more advanced than anything in your fleets. We have technology that lets us control stars and fold space itself. We have a population of over 300 billion, and every one of them has been preparing for this day. Admiral Vorthak found his voice. Then why haven't you conquered the galaxy? With such power you could rule every system. Because we don't want to rule anyone, Dr. Tanaka replied. We want to explore, to learn, to grow alongside our neighbors. But we also learned long ago that some neighbors only understand strength. She stood up from her desk and walked to the window behind her. Outside, Admiral Vorthak could see the blue sky of Earth. White clouds drifting peacefully across a world that looked completely normal, despite the massive fleet battle happening in the space above it. This is our choice. Admiral, she said, not turning around. We could have built weapons that would crack your homeworlds. Instead, we built tools that harness the power of creation itself. We could have struck first when we learned of your ultimatum. Instead, we chose to show you why such ultimatums are meaningless when directed at a species like ours. She turned back to face the camera, and Admiral Vorthak saw something in her expression that made him understand why humans had survived every extinction event their world had thrown at them. You will never forget this day, Dr. Tanaka said quietly, because this is the day you learned that humanity chooses when to reveal its true strength. Today we chose restraint. We chose to show you that we are not your enemies unless you make us so. The massive human fleet began to move, not in attack formation, but in a slow, graceful dance that demonstrated perfect coordination between hundreds of thousands of vessels. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Your choice now is simple, Dr. Tanaka continued. You can recognize that humanity has earned the right to exist as equals in this galaxy, or you can continue to believe that might makes right. But remember, if might makes right, then humanity has more right than anyone. Admiral Vorthak looked around his bridge at officers from 12 different species, all of them staring in shock at the displays showing human power beyond anything they had imagined. In a few hours, everything they thought they knew about the galaxy had been turned upside down. Dr. Tanaka, he said finally, what are your terms? No terms, she replied. No demands, no ultimatums, no threats. We simply want to exist in peace, to continue growing and learning and exploring. Your fleets can return home safely. Your admiral and his crew will be returned from their dimensional prison unharmed, and then we can start over. As equals this time. The communication ended, leaving Admiral Vorthak alone with the impossible choice. He looked out at the human fleet, each ship positioned with mathematical precision around his forces, and understood that he was witnessing something that had never happened before in galactic history. A species had achieved absolute power and chosen to use it for peace. Sir, Sharp-Click asked quietly, what are your orders? Admiral Vorthak was silent for a long moment, watching the human ships as they continued their graceful dance around his fleet. Finally, he activated his ship's communication system. All hegemony vessels, he broadcast. This is Admiral Vorthak. We are withdrawing from the Sol system immediately. Send word to the Hegemony Council. The ultimatum is rescinded. Humanity has earned the right to negotiate as equals.